It's not too late.
It's never too late. You're listening to Big Blend Radio with Nancy and Lisa, the mother-daughter travel team on the Love Your Park Store and publishers of Big Blend magazines. And you just heard Light from Light. It is by Los Angeles-based songwriter, singer, musician, filmmaker Michael J. Valentine. And you can get his music and listen to his music. Just go to michaelvalentine.bandcamp.com. And you also want to check out about his movie. It is Comix, so go to comixthemovie.com, and that's Comix, C-O-M-I-X. Check so that out.
Cool.
He's on Facebook, he's on Twitter, and he's super cool, positive, and I think he's drinking wine with us. Right,
cool.
Michael? Welcome.
Well, thank you guys for having me, Lisa and Nancy.
Hey, very cool to have you on the show. So you know our friend Jeff Kozak, right?
Oh yeah. Jeff has been helping me record some of my music. Actually, I just released a new song on Bandcamp that he helped me mix. So yeah, he's a really great guy.
Yeah, good.
And very
that's
talented
awesome.
guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I told him that I've got a backlog of music that I've written, and I'm like, you are the person. There's a couple of people, but he is like one of the first people in the planet that gets to play with it at some point in my life when I get back around to it. But right now we're traveling and talking to musicians like you. But you have a very epic sound, and really, it's interesting about you doing filmmaking and doing the documentary Comix because you seem to be very into positivity, just it's uplifting. But at the same time, I feel like your music is really perfect for soundtracks for movies and TV.
Oh, thank you for that. And also, hello to you guys out there in 29 Palms. I heard you were out there, and I love 29 Palms and Joshua Tree. So, yeah, I envy you guys right now. I'm sure it's beautiful out there.
It is beautiful. It's full of flowers, and it's all full of beauty. And so you're in L.A. area. How long have you been in L.A.?
Well, I've lived here since about 1988. I grew up in Florida, and then I moved out here because I wanted to make it music. And just like a lot of people come out here, they want to be musicians or actors or directors or producers or something like that. So I came out here with the dream, and I'm still going for that dream.
Yeah, cool. Now, I was reading that you've done quite a bit of work over the years, obviously in bands, but also working at Devonshire recording studios. So you got to work with all kinds of people.
Oh yeah. So basically, when I came out here, I played in a band in Florida called Valentine, and we're fairly popular locally. But I had to get out of Orlando and out of Florida, so I came out to LA, and I didn't want to just.
That's so funny. People do this back and forth between Southern California and Florida all the time. It's like I got to get out of Florida, then you get to California, and then like I got to get out. I'm going back to Florida. That's what our family does anyway. But they go back and forth. But,
yeah. No, it's true. And my wife and I talk about when we retire, maybe we go back to Florida. I'm like, I don't know, maybe. I said maybe.
That's funny. I know, but that's funny.
Yeah, it is pretty funny. So, and it's one of those things where, like I was saying, I came out here and I knew I had to work. I think that's a lot of times what happens to musicians is they come out here and they don't have jobs and they just try to make it. I've always been kind of a quote unquote working artist, meaning I have always had a day job because I knew that if I wanted to pursue my dreams that I needed to no one was going to pay for it for me. So I knew I had to work. So I decided that I didn't want to work at, a normal 9-to-5 job. If I was going to work, I'd like to get into working somewhere into music. So I went to a recording school in Orlando called Full Sail, and I graduated from there, and I came out here for a week. I drove out here, and I drove my car all the way 3,000 miles across the country, and came here looking for a job, and I found one at Devonshire Studios. I was really blessed.
What were you doing there? What did you do?
I was doing Well, I started like a lot of people. I started being like the errand boy and the guy who went and got food for the artists and cleaned the studios, and then I started doing some assistant engineering for some of the smaller artists there. But it was a really great experience because I got to see a lot of different sides of the industry. I got to see the management side where artists would have their managers there, and I could get insight on what really happens with the artists and their management and what management really does. I could see how the recording process is done. It's one thing when you learn something out of a book or you go to a school for something, but when you live it in real life, it's always a little bit different. And that was a great experience. And I got to meet a lot of great artists. I met Ozzy Osbourne, Donny Osmond, Crosby, Stills, and Nash. A lot of these guys were recording there. So when I came out here, in my first 6 months, I'm meeting all these people and all this great music. And so it's really great experience.
That's cool. Neat. I think it's neat because I think when you kind of have that it's a ground floor opportunity and to grow. You know, it's like I know so many chefs that started as a dishwasher, you know, but they learned all the ropes of the industry by doing that, you know, and being able to observe. And it's up to you if you want to, you know, I think that's, you can, you know, Nancy and I talk about this all the time. If you have a passion for something like music or art, there's so many different ways to be part of it and still do it, but do other sides of it that you may not have really thought you wanted to do. You know what I mean? It's like if you want to be a chef, you don't necessarily want to be the dishwasher, but you need to.
Well, you might have to, you know, and you said a great word, grow, and it's a perfect word, because I think for me, and I think for a lot of people, it's, you know, when you're an artist of any kind, you want to absorb as well as create, you know. I mean, I can't get enough art. I just absorb it, and it helps me grow, whether it's music or it's film or television, or it's, you know, going to museums, or heck, going to Yosemite, or going out to Joshua Tree. There's all ways to grow. And for an artist, you know, I get inspired by so many different things. So I kind of need that. I kind of need just to kind of feed that part of me. You know what I mean? Like continuously.
It's interesting too, reading, you know, about your band, and you know, I know you did a lot of, you know, covers and things like that, right? And every band does, you know. But then getting into songwriting for yourself, were you always writing songs? I know you play a lot of different instruments, and I want to talk about that too, because I think that's always cool. But the songwriting part, was that always at the beginning for you?
Yeah, it kind of was. I mean, you know, for me, I'm self-taught, so I never really had any lessons. I take that back. I had 3 months of drum lessons because I started on the drums, and I thought I wanted to be a drummer when I was a little kid, bang on everything. It drove my parents crazy, I'm sure.
Cool.
Pots and pans. Yeah, man, whatever made noise. And then I would set up my pseudo little drum set, you know, in my room with, like, my dad had old briefcases he would give me, like that. And, you know, anything that made noise, and I would just pound on it. And then after a while, my parents just said, okay, we got to get this kid a drum set, because if not, he's going to break everything in the house. So so I started playing drums, and I took lessons, and I'd be dropped off after school at the local music store where I was taking drum lessons. And my mom would drop me off, and then she would go shopping and stuff, and I'd always get there early. And the whole time I was there, you know, because it's hard to play drums in a music store. I mean, no one wants to hear some little kid learning how to play, but you could pick up a guitar and pluck around, and it's not going to really offend too many people unless you turn it really loud. But so I started playing guitar a lot when I was waiting for my drum teacher to get there. And then when I would come home, my brothers played guitar, and they had all these books, you know, song books like Neil Young and then Carpenters and all these great 70s music books that had all these different songs in it. And what I did is I went through the books, and all the chords, they'll show you how to play the chords. They'll show you where the finger positions are. Yeah, and so I just started learning that. And one of my first songs that I learned was the song by Joan Baez, and Diamonds and Rust.
Do you remember which one it was?
Which
one was
Diamonds and Rust.
Yeah.
Yes, and I was like, and it's great. I used to listen to my dad. My dad was so awesome because he would listen to a lot of, you know, contemporary music at that time. Like, you know, he loved Frank Sinatra and all those great artists, but he also liked Cat Stevens and Jim Croce and all these great songwriters from the 70s and 60s. And, you know, I remember this Joan Baez album. I forget the name of it. It was her live album. And I just really, something about that song, and I think that's really when I started realizing, you know, not just I loved music, but I loved the art of songwriting. And so then I got into bands, you know, and in bands I played a lot of guitar, lead guitar, rhythm guitar. But I knew early on that I wanted to write because, as you were saying earlier, I had to play covers to play in the clubs because, you know, people want to hear the songs they know, right? But I just quickly realized
that's a comfort zone.
Yes. Yeah, and it makes sense. I mean, you know, you're spending money and all that stuff, and of course that makes perfect sense. And I'm glad I did that because that helped me too. I mean, when I was playing in clubs in Florida, the clubs were open till like 4 a.m, so we would have to play like 5 1-hour sets. So we had to know 5 hours worth of cover songs. So,
wow.
And then we would skin our own songs in between there whenever we could.
It's like right before the break time, right? When everybody's just like really full on, full tilt boogie, you turn around and go, okay, here's mine. And then it's like, like especially when the more they drink, the more you.
But and also
throw them in.
If it's a gig you play all the time on a regular basis, then people will come, and then after about the third or fourth time you play this song, they start asking for it.
Exactly. That is such a cool feeling.
And then it's like, yay.
Well, that we had our band, and our band had Nancy and I still threatened to write a book about our band. I didn't understand about half of the drugs and everything when I got back to this country from living in South Africa. I'm like, what? And I didn't know that. I was just so naive would be the word. Mm-hmm. And it was really interesting because we had to do covers, but we were putting in, sneaking our stuff in, our originals the same way. But it's just, and then once I got rid of the band thing and I went out on my own in coffee shops, and even that was actually very intimidating. It was such a personal thing, and I'm like, I could sit there and wail on, vocal, just wail and dance and do the whole thing, but make me talk on a microphone to the audience was the hardest thing. But now, look, but and I was shy as heck, and then doing the coffee shop thing was really intimidating. And then, I found that the coffee shop folks and, like the beer and wine bars, people wanted to actually hear your originals, and people would ask for them and kind of push me along to do it even more. And I thought that was one of the coolest things, is for people to request your personal songs, and that's got to be really feel good, right, when that happens.
Oh, it's a great feeling. It's probably one of the best feelings in the world is when someone, or it just gives you positive accolades about your song, or say something about how it really touched you, or it meant something to them, or, and that is the best feeling in the world. And that's why I love to write music, because as you guys were saying earlier when you were introducing me, it's like I'm really in the positive realm. I try to put whatever I touch as far as create, it has to be something positive or something, that means something. There's plenty of dark things out there in the world, and people, and that's fine. But for me, because I feel that we need as much of that in this world as possible. So, so going back to your question, it is, especially now, exactly. And the world is just ever changing and getting weirder by the day, and I think the more positivity that we can put out there, and I really believe in energy and positive energy. So if I put out positive energy, maybe it'll catch on with other people, or maybe if someone else has positive energy, it'll catch on to me. So, I really think that that's important. At least for me it is. And, going back to your question earlier, you're talking about the covers and stuff. What we did is we learned to save the covers till later. So you'd come out and play a set or two, and you'd do a bunch of covers, and they'd get kind of drunk, and if they really liked you and they were really into you, and then by the third set, you could start going, okay, here's one of our songs, and then they would be a little bit more, open to listen. And that's, and well, I did coffee houses too, and I think maybe it was Lisa who was saying this, or maybe it was Nancy, I'm sorry, but you were saying about how, when you play in a coffee house, how stripped down and how right in front of people, and that's the truth. And it's actually harder sometimes to do that. And, people will say, oh my gosh, a lot of people who I've had friends for a long time, they knew me back in the rock and roll days, and when I used to play in like hard rock bands and stuff, and they knew me as this guitar player, and then they hear me now as this more of a songwriter, and they just like, wow, I didn't know you wrote like that. And they'll hear me play, my new song that I just released, it's called Give Me Strength, and it's very acoustic, acoustic guitar-driven song, very stripped down, and sometimes those are the hardest ones to do.
Yeah, you have to be on your game. You have to be on your game to really deliver that message. And I like that you're positive, because I know that you're spiritual, maybe more religious than what we are, but you're right, you have that positive where you feel good listening, no matter what your religious beliefs are or spiritual beliefs. And I think that's important, that it transcends. I do want to ask, because I know you played in the band Fault Line, and I'm trying to figure out why I know the band Fault Line.
Oh,
I have a feeling that was where was this band? Because I have a feeling that
this is in North Hollywood. Were you ever living in North Hollywood area?
I think they were on the show.
Yeah,
like years ago.
Oh my gosh!
Wow. I think so.
Were they ever out in Wrightwood area or something like that? I don't know why that's
I don't know. That's a good question. I'm not really sure. I was only with them for like about a year, and we did some good stuff together. But what happened for me on that is, I love being in a band situation, because in a band situation, you've got other people to bounce ideas off of and collaborate with, and I love that collaboration craft, because it's just a really great thing when you have a group of people that can come up with something that's really great, and you're like, wow, we did this together, and you feel like a team, and everything's great. But as I was more realizing about writing songs, some people write different type of music than you do, and a lot of musicians are not as open-minded as other ones. So I found that with them, they were kind of going in one direction, what they wanted to do, and I wanted to be able to do more than just that. I wanted to be able to be like a Neil Young or someone, where one album is this acoustic, really nice acoustic songs, and the next album is, this blistering rock, and it's just like, this guy just,
Crazy Horse came into town.
Right, exactly. I always admired artists like that who could just do a 180 and just go into a different direction with their music. And that's what I was going to say. So for me, it was like a great eye-opening experience to be able to kind of write on my own and be able to create something that I knew is what I was trying to say, without having someone say, well, you said this word, or it's a little, you were saying earlier, yes, I'm a little Christian. I'm not real hardcore, but it's sometimes tough to get that kind of music out to people, especially most of my friends who listen to Led Zeppelin and Rolling Stones, for them to go, oh yeah, I like Light from Light. It's got a spiritual twist to it. And I'm like, and that's okay.
Yeah.
I think it's okay for people to be like that. And it takes,
you have to be open.
The harmonies.
You do.
Yeah, the harmonies are the, in my brain, this is how I filter, okay, is there's light, and then there's the dark, and there's a whole bunch of in-betweens. Well, the ones that are really dark and the ones that are really light are the ones that stick in your memory. The ones that are in between are, oh yeah, I remember that sort of kind of songs. So when there's the light, there's the direction. There are certain harmonies that make you feel good, and there's certain harmonies that make you feel sad, like the minor keys make you feel, it's just not quite there. Yeah, so it's like that. There's a human emotion attached to different sounds. So
that is very true. That is very true.
And so when your dog barks, it's like, I want food, or there's somebody in your yard that doesn't belong. And when the cat meows, it's like really PO'd, or it's just like, hey, I like you.
Yeah.
It's all about sound.
And it has to do with your chakras. I remember having an album, and I know I've talked about this on a show once, and it had all this music, like with these songs were your different chakras. And this album, like, literally made me angry. And I wouldn't think it would, into meditation, and this would be all this cool stuff. And I was talking to a friend who's, on the spiritual side of chakras and yoga, and she's like, no, man, you played all the different chakras at different places, and that kind of bounced against you. Like that, it hit it in the wrong place at the wrong time. And so it's like, it's like.
It sounds like a song right there.
I know, but it can, and it depends on what you have to work with as an individual on your chakras, and different sounds, and it's like light therapy, color therapy, sound therapy. It's all connected. It's all the same thing. So you can hear something and see colors and have an emotion attached to that. So it's pretty trippy about the whole thing of what music does. And I think as writers, I know we're going to talk about travel writing with Linda Balloon a little bit here, but as writers or anybody that creates art, we have a responsibility and to be honest, whether it's something that people don't like, but we have a responsibility to tell the truth of if we start messing around and whatever wants to come out and we start editing in it and going no, because people won't want this or won't want that, then you're going against truth, and then you're going against art, then you're going against what you're supposed to be doing. So I think it's important that you do the key. Yeah.
I would agree. I mean, isn't that really what art's about, And I don't know. For me, it's one of those things where I look at life as full of positives and negatives and everything in between, right? You're talking about energy. So I really think, to live a full life, you're going to experience the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. And sometimes what I try to do in my music is where and I've learned this from other artists that I've grown to love over the years, is you could hear a song that sounds positive, but if you listen to the lyrics, they might be kind of, they might be sad or vice versa. So what I try to do is I try to kind of bring everything back. So it's almost like a reset button. So, Light from Light's a little bit about, being okay with when you go to the next level, wherever that is. And none of us know, but, I want to feel free, and I want to fly, and I want to spread my wings and just, feel that euphoria, and
I love that.
And it's like, well, thank you. And the thing is like, but it took a lot of ups and downs to get there, and that's what life is. And so for me as an artist, I think, I want to be able to come out with the song being at the tail end of something that is a positive. So, nice. It's like it may have taken a lot to get there, but when you get there, and there's a lot of sadness out there, and there's a lot of people who wallow in sadness, and I can get there too. I've had a lot of times. The song I just wrote called "Give Me Strength," it's about that. It's about not to get on the side track, but it's about when you're wondering, you're lost, and you don't know what's going on in your life, and you just need something to tap into to kind of help you. Reset and give you strength to move forward and finding that strength. And so wherever you find that strength, whatever your spiritual, whatever your way is, it's good with me. I have no problem with any of it, and I think as long as go ahead.
I was going to say, I like the song, and everyone, it's on your Bandcamp page. I like that.
The real strength is not having to fight about it. That's where the real strength is. Mm-hmm. And I wish people, when it comes like, this religion versus that religion, the real strength is not fighting about it.
Wear a mask, don't wear a mask.
Well, okay.
I know.
But the real strength is just not fighting about it. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying giving up. I'm just saying not to, and don't get dirty and down with it. Just like there's other ways of fixing problems.
I agree. And I think listening to music's the way. Honestly, that's my thing.
It sure is. And I think if everybody had more peace and love and calmness and joy in their lives, they'd be like, hey, that's your opinion and you have it, I have mine, and I'm fine with what you believe and you're fine with what I believe. We can still get along and this world can be as one, It's like, John Lennon said it a lot, and he put it down to the basics sometimes, and that's the other thing I really liked about people like John Lennon is he wasn't complex songwriter. His songs are 4 chords, 3 chords, maybe sometimes more, but his message was really simple, but poignant and still relevant, right?
I agree. He's one of my favorites.
And I think for me, that's kind of where I try to come from as far as for music. I want it to be poignant and have meaning to people now and when I'm dead and gone.
I love it.
Well, the one thing I really like about simplicity is somebody who hears something, and it's a simple lyric, it's a simple melody, but in their mind, they attach it to something that's happened to them. And that's where that meaning gels. And so to them it means something different. It could be way different than what the composer intended, or it could be spot on. depending on how it was written and why. But it touches people in so many different ways, in different degrees, and that's what I love about art.
I agree.
No, it's actually amazing you said that, because that's one of my favorite things actually to do when I write a song or someone hears a song and they'll go, I really like that song, and I'll ask them what it meant to them, because I almost care more about what interpretation they have than what I wrote it about, because I wrote it for my interpretation and I tried to write it for other people. But when someone, like you were saying earlier, when someone gravitates towards a song, but it may mean a completely different thing to them, but it still gravitates towards that's the best feeling. And I learned that from Meatloaf. Used to say that. Meatloaf used to, when people come up to him and say, I really love that song, you know, what did it mean? What's it about? And Meatloaf would just say, well, what is it about to you?
Exactly.
And I always love that.
I love that. That's
so cool.
That's true art. I do want to get into comics, because here's the music side, and then you go into this whole documentary, and then comics, everyone, award-winning. So it's out. So comics, this is Beyond the Comic Book Pages, and it was an Indie Fest and L.A. Indie Film Award-winning film. And so you went behind the scenes with this, right? So you really did interviews with the creators of all the comics.
Yes, I did. So I around 2003, I was watching a lot of documentaries, and I was writing a lot of music, but I really started getting into documentaries because it's another great art form, and it's one of those kinds of art forms where you can kind of, especially when you're not like, you don't have to be, you're not, what's the word? You don't have to be responsible to someone else about what you do. It's the great thing about being independent is when you're signed to some label or something, they're always going, oh, well, we don't want this kind of music because, you know, it's not what you're known for, or something like that. It's the same thing with documentaries. If you're independent documentary, you can do whatever you want. No one's going to tell you no, because they're not paying you. You're doing it yourself. So I really loved that about documentaries. It really had a lot of similarities to songwriting and being in music as far as that goes. So I went to I wrote a treatment. I'm a very creative person. It drives my wife crazy because I have a whole notebook full of ideas of things that I want to do, from restaurants to movies to films to scripts to songs to. She drives her crazy. She's like, "What now?" You know. So, but it's all good, you know, and I just keep track of them all. And so, but this one I really thought was something great. So I had an idea for a treatment for a movie, and I pitched it around a little bit, and everybody was saying, well, why don't you shoot a trailer for it on your own, and then you can sell the trailer. But it was way too much money. So I said, well, maybe I'll make a comic book from it, because a lot of movies are made from comic books these days. And when I was growing up, I loved comic books. That was another passion of mine growing up. Is actually comic books even before music. I was just reading, and Spider-Man and Batman and all these great characters. So, once that kind of a light bulb went off in my head about, make a comic book out of it, I started doing some research, and I went to my first comic book convention in 2004. I went to Comic-Con San Diego, and oh my God, I walk into this place, and it's a world like you have never seen before. It was crazy, great, amazing. It was just the coolest thing ever. And the great thing is everybody was so nice. You could go up to anybody and just start talking to them about something, and you'd have these things in common. It's, it was just this amazing experience. Anyway, so this light bulb went off in my head that, again, I was watching a lot of documentaries at the time, and then I went to this convention. I was like, I want to do a documentary, and I want to do one about the comic book industry, not just about about one person or one writer or one comic book character or one publisher. I wanted to do something that covered kind of the whole phenomenon, if you will, because that's what I was right in the middle of at this convention. So that's what I did. I took it upon myself, and all my friends thought I was crazy because I had never done a documentary before. I did go to college for filmmaking. I just kind of had this passion and this dream, just like with music. And, as a kid learning music, I wanted to learn guitar, so I was just going to do it. I didn't care what people thought. And that's what I did. Yeah. So it took me about 14 years, but I funded it all on my own, and I got to interview Stan Lee, the Godfather
That's
of comic books.
Cool.
Yeah, it was a dream come true. I was like a little kid when I was sitting with him. So it was just this really great thing, and a very positive experience because that was a true collaborative thing. I got to collaborate with a lot of different people. I got to meet a lot of great artists, writers, creators, but the fans especially were the most fun because they're just crazy, awesomely unique and genuine, and they're very nice people, and they love this art form. They have a passion
So did
amazing.
the comic books come first before the cartoons? Like, look at Mighty Mouse, and then Mighty Mouse, and then you look at Superman. One's a mouse, and one's Superman, but they do the same thing.
Well, that's
He's
a great
going,
question.
who the heck is Mighty Mouse?
Yeah. Right. Superman, okay. We haven't had a Mighty Mouse movie.
Gosh,
maybe we
I'm
should.
so much older then.
Well, no, here's the thing. I mean, the really, without getting too historical here, and the film, we talk a little bit about it. The great thing about the film is it doesn't just talk about the history of comic books. It gives you the great thing about the film is anybody can watch it, whether you're really into comic books or not. I tried to really make it to where anybody could be entertained, and it's not like you have to know all the characters to follow the film, not at all.
Right.
But what really happened is early on, I mean, people drawing art form and, these kinds of things were probably done on caves back in the caveman days. So it's hard to really say when, the first comic book happened. But what we do know is that the comic strips in the papers were where comic books started from. So in New York, especially in like the 30s, they started doing political comic book strips in the newspapers. And so, and the reason why, there's a lot of stereotyping of as far as, the comic book creators are all old white guys. And there is some truth to that. But nowadays it's so versatile and there's so much great talent in all types of realms. But back then it was because in New York in that time period is very predominantly Jewish. So a lot of these guys who, the guys who created Superman, and the guy Bob Kane who created Batman, these guys were Jewish men working for newspapers, and so the newspapers wanted to create, something besides the political, comic book strips, and so they started creating these characters, and they put them in strips. And what happened was they had so many strips, and so they started putting these strips kind of in a book together, so you could kind of, because the strip was part of the story, right? 4 or 5 frames. So they started putting all these different frames in a book, and that's kind of how comic books kind of came to be. And then once
we
have
the
actual
Mad Magazine, but
you had the strip. Once it was usually the Sunday comics. I'm just seeing back. The Sunday comics, you got them on Sunday, and so you had to wait a whole week to see what the next 4 little panels were going to be about what happened.
That's right. And
if
so
you got the comic book, you got the story all at once.
Yeah, well, actually, you never got the full story because they want you to keep buying them.
Well, yeah, because
and then
with
the movies,
stay tuned.
Some things haven't changed. Yeah, I tell people comic book movies are like soap operas for men. They really are, because if you watch these comic book movies, they never end. The characters really never die. But we love watching them, and that's, for me, making this movie was great because I love the movies and I love the comic books. But at that time in 2004, there really wasn't any kind of a documentary there was a documentary about Stan Lee and about comic book history, but something that kind of involved all the different moving parts of what make the phenomenon or the industry, not just the artists and the writers and the creators, which are all important, but publishers, comic book stores, the guys who do the inking, the guys who do the little titles on there, the fans, especially the people who create the conventions. So that was my goal with the film, is to really encompass all that and bring it all into one movie.
Well, we're going to, time-wise here, we got to get going.
Okay, sorry.
So I want to play Everyday Hero. I know we could talk for hours.
I know, I have a really burning question.
Yeah.
I'll email it.
Yeah, Yeah, I
Okay.
want to play Everyday Hero because, and I love this because I think that's something important too, that we all be everyday heroes. And I want to be an everyday hero for the environment. So anyway, everybody's got their thing, you know. So I love that.
That's right.
And I thank you for joining us. It's been
so
a
much
pleasure
fun.
chatting with you and having wine time with you and playing your music. Everyone, again, go to the website or go to bandcamp.com. Michael Valentine is where you want to go on Bandcamp, michaelvalentine.bandcamp.com. And also for the movie, go check it out. It's comixthemovie.com, and that's Comix, C-O-M-I-X, themovie.com. But we're going to play Everyday Hero. Thanks so much for joining us, Michael.
Oh, thank you, Lisa and Nancy. I had such a great time, and I appreciate you having me on.
Oh, it's been a pleasure.
It's going to be about
Me
Superman's dog and Batman's dog.
All right, here it is, everyone.
Okay.
Every day. That sounds interesting. Yes. I better watch what I have to say. All right, here it is.
Somewhere far beyond this space and time, unknown. Believe in fantasy, something you never outgrow. Never giving up the ultimate victory. Marvel at inspiration, true humanity. We all dream, looking for heroes on the silver screen. We can dream, searching for answers to life's mystery.